Hey, what is up, mortals? It is GrogFunky here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 6 of season 3 of What If Deku Was a Dragon Slayer. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying, sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. And so, we begin. The UA students underwent 10 months of brutal training. The classes at UA had been tamed compared to instructions under the fairy tale wizards. All of the students agreed that they were insane. The students of 1A had always believed that Urza Scarlet had been a harsh taskmaster. But after training under her fellow wizards in the art of magic, they now understood why she was the way she was. After a long day of magical training, the UA students were all asleep in their dorms within the guild hall. A meeting was taking place in the upstairs room of the guild hall. Marikov Dreyer, Lucy Heartfilia, Urza Scarlet, Mavis Vermilion, Principal Nezu, and All Might sat around a conference table. Several magical monitors lined the wall at the head of the conference table. The images of men and women in business suits could be seen on the screens. Nezu cleared his mousy throat and spoke.
Welcome, everyone. I am glad you all can make it to this meeting.
The bear mouse man then turned toward the scenes.
I also want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us remotely for this important meeting.
One of the men on the screen spoke in a formal tone. Enough with this pleasantries, Nezu. Let's get down to business.
Very well. I think we should start with the reports on the state of the world.
A well-dressed woman spoke this time.
That is easy. It is terrible. For several months, the villains called Acnologia has been attacking every major city on the planet. He appears in that black dragon form of his and consumes every quirk in that city, and then destroys the city. And then he moves on to the next one.
Another official spoke up. He has already wiped out over 10 metropolitan areas. If he keeps going, there will be nothing left. Why is he doing this? Marikov got a disturbed look on his face. Acnologia's only desire is destruction. This is how it started on Earthland. Urza agreed.
The master is correct. The beast cares only for destruction. He will keep fighting and destroying until everything is gone.
I don't mean to be rude, but should we be listening to these wizards? It is their fault this monster is even here. Nezu was going to interject, but Mavis beat him to it.
The man has a point. If we had beaten Acnologia in our world, you all would not be facing this disaster now. For that, I and the other members of Fairy Tail are truly sorry.
The other wizards at the table nodded in agreement. Mavis then continued.
That being said, what do you think we have been doing since we arrived on this world so long ago? We have been doing everything in our power to find something that can end Acnologia's days.
The short woman pointed at the screens.
Is there any of you who can say that you have dedicated that much time and energy to such an important task?
Marikov added, Let us not forget that we've been warning all of your leaders about Acnologia's presence for many decades now. Each and every one of them did little to nothing to help us reach our goal. We may have brought Acnologia here, but you all decided to accept his presence. A silence fell over the conference room. The faces on all the screens wore looks of shame.
Well, that got heavy real quick. I suggest we get back on topic. Let us discuss a solution.
A man with a squid-shaped head appeared.
You have a point, Nezu. Passing the buck will achieve nothing. And the longer we fight among each other, the worse our situation becomes. I, for one, would like to hear what these wizards would have to say.
The other leaders reluctantly agreed.
Before that, though, we in America have seen some interesting information. When the creature attacked LA, he did not destroy the whole city. He devastated a large section of it, but then retreated. It also seems that his ability to steal quirks is limited to a narrow area. Our information shows that his radius is about 100 feet. Any quirk outside that area is safe.
Well, that is some good news, sir.
It also seems that he has a cooldown period. After he uses the city-leveling blast, he disappears for 2 weeks. It is only thanks to that and the help of the Fairy Tale Wizard's pocket dimension that we were able to keep casualties as low as they are.
Urza replied to them. Those pocket dimensions were a failed attempt at our guild to create a prison for the beast. Our hope was to trap him and give ourselves more time to find a solution. I am at least grateful that our research was able to be useful. All Might then spoke up.
Do we know where the villain is now? That is the weird thing. He was seen flying over the US towards New York, but then he disappeared from the radar completely. He has not been seen since. How long ago was that? About 2 months ago. It's a total break in his pattern of attacking a major city every 2 weeks.
All Might rubbed his Chadley chin in deep thought.
I can only speculate it is likely this destructive hiatus is due to his acquisition of All for One.
Marikov got a quizzical look on his face.
How so, All Might? As you all know, the ability to transfer quirks from person to person is extremely rare. In fact, All for One was the only individual in written history with that ability. It is likely that the process takes a toll on his body. Even as one as powerful as this Acnologia would have trouble using it full force like this has been. Right out of the gate.
Nezu nodded in agreement.
A good point, but we must use this time to prepare. After all, we know that this villain would not stop until everything is gone.
With those chilling words from this Animan, the War Council started to lay out their plan. After the meeting, Lucy and Urza stood in the hallway. The two women had worried looks on their faces. Lucy was the first to speak.
Do you think the students are ready for this? Can anyone truly be ready for something like this? The plan is set to take place in 2 months. I guess we'll have to prepare them all the best we can during that time.
That is our only choice. How are the 3 Dragon Slayers coming along?
According to Natsu and Loxus, they are improving every day. In fact, Natsu said it is scary how quick the 3 are gaining power.
That is good to hear. All 3 of them may only be 16, but the fate of this world and all other worlds rests on their shoulders.
Do you really think this plan is going to work?
I do. This group we have been training is strong. I have a feeling that they will make all the difference. Suddenly, a male voice spoke from down the hall. They may be facing more trouble than you know. The 2 ladies looked in the direction of the voice, and Zareth walked up to them. Elsewhere in a dark and damp cave in America, Acnologia sat, breathing heavily.
It seems that I overestimated the power of All for One. This quirk has taken a toll on my body. But that does not mean the destruction has to end.
The destroyer's eyes glowed a sinister shade of red.
Awaken, my soldiers. It is time for this world to fall!
This video is sponsored by Skillshare. With the services Skillshare provides, you can get access to many in-depth tutorial videos on basically anything you want to learn. Each class that they have is bound to help you with your creative endeavors. Do you want to learn how to make videos like this one? Do you want to learn how to write scripts or even edit audio? Skillshare's got you covered. And with our link, you can have a 14-day free trial. So what are you waiting for? Click the link now and get 14 days worth of classes free. Link is in the description below. Deep in the bowels of Tartarus prison, the hero killer Stain sat in his cell. The man was restrained in a straitjacket, with cameras mounted machine guns pointed at him. Altogether, a terrible place to end up. But the hero killer had more than earned his place there. The cameras were all focused on this dark-haired villain. 1 minute Stain sat calmly in his cell. The next, the villain began to shake violently. Stain's skin turned pitch black, and his irises disappeared from his eyes. Both of the villain's orbs glowed with a white energy. Both the strange force took over the villain. He replied in a panicked voice.
Why, master? Have I not been loyal to you?
The voice of Acnologia spoke into Stain's mind.
Do you think you have special to me, Stain?
How sad.
You were only the first successful experiment.
What did you do to me, master?
Did you think that the power I gave you came without a price? I empowered you so you could deliver your brand of justice into the world. Now you will pay me back, and so will all those who used my power to strengthen themselves.
Stain's body expanded. His hands became claws. His mouth and jaws elongated into something inhuman. The villain ripped the straitjacket and bound him to pieces. Standing there, the hero killer once did was dragon-human hybrid. The machine guns engaged. Powerful firearms unloaded many rounds onto the creature. Each bullet bounced off the creature's scales harmlessly. The Stain Dragon then broke free from his cell and went on a rampage through the facility. It attacked anyone that got in his way, and he was attacking in a mindless fury. And he was not the only one. Many of the imprisoned underwent the same transformation. The guards all freaked out. None of them knew what to do. So many prisoners were breaking out. It had never crossed any of their minds that any villains would be able to break out. Before they knew it, the whole prison was in chaos. The dragon soldiers destroyed everything and everyone in sight. The hundreds of floors above them collapsed from all the destruction. Tartarus caved in on itself. The ruins burned with a fierce black and white fire, but then rubble began to shift. The mini dragons exploded from the ruins, their eyes still hungry for destruction. Elsewhere, more criminals and lowlifes transformed into a dark mini dragon. Each one then set out on a rampage. Many heroes fought back against the violence of the dragon's infused villains. The dragon's strength was not the problem. The problem was their numbers. Even as they beat down one dragon, a new one would pop up. Back in the fairy tale hall, in fairy space, Urza, Mavis, and Zareth were in a meeting. Zareth held up a small glass orb in the other heroes. Urza took the small glass object in her armored hands. The tall woman then spoke in a worried tone. "This is definitely a magic lacrema. It is much smaller than any I've ever seen." Zareth then added, "But you will notice that the power coming off it is both malevolent and powerful." "It is true. The magic feels like Acnologia's." "It is. From what we've determined, these tiny crystals work just like the dragon lacrema we made." Mavis got a thoughtful look on her face. "Meaning that if a person was to implant this crystal, they would gain Dragon Slayer powers?" "Correct. But since the Dragon Slayer power inside comes from Acnologia, it would not be bound by element." All Might came bounding up the hallway.
You all need to see this!
The group of wizards followed the number one hero to the conference room. The viewing scenes all showed the dragon's soldiers rampaging around Japan. They then saw that there were a few of these attacks happening around the world. "That explains the lacrema." "It does." All Might got a confused look on his face.
What are you three talking about?
Zareth then explained how his time working in the underworld of the Hero Society had led him to the Acnologia-powered dragon lacrema. All Might took all this information in before speaking.
So you believe these magic crystals are what created these creatures?
I do. While Acnologia never used a tactic like this in our world, there is a first time for everything. Mavis chimed in. If I venture a guess, the ancient Slayer probably realized after his long battle to destroy Earthland that he would need help. It is likely that he got the idea for these dragon soldiers from watching All for One's Nomu program for so many decades. Zareth agreed. My investigation into the orbs found that they had not spread very far outside of Japan. That is why there are only pockets of dragon soldiers popping up all over the world. All Might nodded his head in agreement.
I guess we should be grateful for that. But these creatures, do you mean that our timetable has changed?
I agree. I hope the children are ready. Urza's normally confident glare was replaced with a worried expression. They will have to be. All Might, you and Zareth go get the members of Class A and B. I'll go retrieve Midoriya, Marvel, and Kaminari. The four heroes took off for different parts of the guild hall. As they walked, they were each gripped by a sense of dread. None of them liked the idea of sending such young heroes into a situation like this. If it had been any other time, it would not have happened. But each of them knew they had no choice. They all prayed that these young people had grown enough over the last 10 months. Urza walked down the narrow hallways of the Fairy Tale Guild. Her normal energetic steps were less so today. In a training field behind the guild hall, the 3 Dragon Slayer youths were all lying on the ground, exhausted. Both Loxus Dreyer and Natsu Dragneel stood over the youth with a big grin on their face.
That was awesome, you 3! You've finally mastered Dragon Force, and you have made great strides in unlocking the final stage of Dragon Slayer magic.
Loxus nodded.
True, you 3 have earned some rest.
The 3 youths did not get up. They all just went to sleep on the ground where they laid. Urza walked into the training field. The clanging of her armor announced her arrival. She saw the Dragon Slayer teens laying unconscious on the ground. The serious woman looked at the teens and then at Loxus and Natsu. The crimson-haired maid took a deep breath before she spoke. I see their training has been rigorous. How did it go? Both men started to sweat under Urza's menacing gaze. Natsu finally answered in a worried tone after several minutes.
It went very well, Urza. They've mastered Dragon Force.
What about the final stage? Did they get that? Loxus answered in a serious tone.
The potential's there, but no.
Urza bit her lip in frustration. That is not good news, but it is not unexpected. That power can only be attained under critical conditions, such as fighting for your life.
It isn't ideal, but it is what we were dealing with.
Okay, well, this is not what I came here to tell you two. Loxus and Natsu knew Urza well enough to know that she was about to drop a bombshell.
What is going on, Urza?
The Night Mage explained the situation in Japan. These events have moved up on our timetable. Urza turned to her pink-haired comrade. Natsu, take these 3 upstairs so they may rest.
Right away, Urza.
Natsu used his fire manipulation powers to create 2 giant dragon claw-like hands. The flaming appendages sprouted from his back. The dragon mage grabbed Kaminari and Midoriya with his fire hands. The flaming claws easily lifted one boy in each claw, and then Natsu gently picked up Wendy in his normal arms. The energetic man then ran off the guild hall, as Urza instructed. Loxus got a grim look on his face.
When does the attack start?
I shall need to meet with Master Makarov and Mavis, but these events mean that we need to move up our plans. I believe we now only have 2 days to prepare.
Not much time. Unfortunately, these kids have been working their butts off these past months. I believe they're ready.
They'll have to be, Loxus. What about Gajiel and Gray? Have they returned?
Loxus nodded.
Gray's been here for a while.
Really? I haven't seen him.
He returned about 6 months ago. You've been really busy with the War Council and planning. At the same time, he's been working with several of the students who gained Maker Magic.
Good to hear. And Gajiel?
Last I heard, he arrived just today.
Good. The plan would not work without him.
Loxus nodded in agreement. Urza then looked at her blonde comrade.
I will consult with the masters, but I need to tell you, to the others, to prepare for the final battle to start in 2 days.
You got it.
Loxus coolly walked off and entered the guild hall to carry out Urza's instructions. Urza stood in on the training field by herself. She looked up at the false sky of fairy space. Many thoughts swirled through her mind. After several minutes, she worried and spoke aloud in a fearsome tone.
The plan will succeed this time. It has to.
I will not watch another world die because of this monster's ravenous appetite for destruction. Urza raised her already powerful tone to an even higher volume.
This time, Fairy Tail will succeed. Acnologia will not destroy another world.
Thank you all for sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we would just like to let you know that we the Celestials have many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description, so feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. That's all for today's video, so goodbye and have a divine day.